And Cheer More is the exhibition that we put together for the summer of 2020. It ran for the entire summer, and that's a very long exhibition run for us here at the Glebe. We're going to keep it up during the winter while we're closed in the hopes that restrictions might ease enough so that students and schools can come and physically visit the exhibition. But we're certainly going to show it again at Easter in 21. This is the second of our 3 videos for schools, and in this video we're just going to look at the 4 themes that run throughout the exhibition. My name's Adrian Kelly and I am the curator here at the Glebe House in the Gallery. I've been the curator for 20 years and I've worked here in total 30 years. So I know the collection really well. When I started here, the word curator wasn't a word that you heard used very often. So I'd have to explain what it was when people asked me what I did. It's a word that is used quite a lot now, so you will have a better idea what it means. But it is specifically a museum job, and it does refer to putting a collection together and looking after that collection, protecting it and preserving it, and presenting it for people to learn from and to enjoy. And we're looking at that last role, particularly in these videos. We're looking at the curator as someone who puts exhibitions together, who allows people to see art or museum artifacts, and who tries to explain things or tries to help you make some sort of meaning out of it. We're going to look at that more in the next video. And in this video, we're just going to look at the 4 themes that run throughout the exhibition. 2020 was such a strange year. We had the lockdown in the spring, and then coming out of that, it was difficult to know what restrictions were going to be in place and for how long, and were they going to ease or were they going to tighten again. So we had to try and put an exhibition together that could grow and develop throughout the summer, but also something that would be interesting enough to last for 3 or 4 months or 6 months. Normally exhibitions here only run for sort of 4 to 8 weeks. We tend not to have longer runs than that because we have such a short summer season. So we would always put an exhibition together in September and October, and we would think about how we could use that for schools and for the Leaving Cert exam question. We wouldn't necessarily design the exhibition to meet those needs, but we would be conscious that that's what we're going to use it for, and we would be looking for ways of using the art. The art's always the most important thing. It always has to come first. But I think because we knew there was so much about the summer ahead of us that we didn't know and that we couldn't predict, we were able to sort of take more chances and to really explore the collection in ways that we probably wouldn't have done for a 4-week or an 8-week exhibition. And I think it was a really good process for us at the gallery here. I think we know a lot more about our collection. But I also think and know from the audience research that we did that people quite enjoyed the exhibition. In the last video, I talked a lot about the process of researching an exhibition and looking for the things that you want to put into the exhibition for the artworks, getting them together. We looked at all the logistics and all the practical stuff that come before the visitor gets to walk in and see the exhibition on the walls. One of the loveliest things about this exhibition is that we took an approach that involved everyone that works here and even some of our very regular visitors to the gallery. Normally the curatorial team will be much smaller than that. It would be maybe only 1 or 2 or 3 people at most. The other thing to note is that we normally wouldn't have 4 themes in an exhibition. That's a little bit cluttered and could go badly wrong. 1 or maybe 2 themes is usually plenty. We certainly realised that it probably wasn't going to be a very busy summer, and we didn't want it to be too busy. We didn't want to have too many people and have crowds that we would have to manage and queues and try to move people around in a way that would be uncomfortable for them. And also it looked like people weren't going to be able to travel, so we didn't expect to have tourists. As a result, the majority of visitors that we were going to get this summer were probably going to be local and regular. So it was an opportunity for us to develop our local audience and also to allow our local audience a different access to the collection than they would normally have. And we were very aware of those things when we were looking at the themes and when we were putting them together. There were also a few things that we wanted to try out, and we were getting around to that. We were developing those ideas, and this summer seemed to be the one to just take a chance and do it and see how it worked. And if it didn't work, we could fix it, because we had a lot of control over the exhibition. We could take things down and replace them if we wanted to. You normally can't do that with a temporary exhibition because the run is so short and you've borrowed, and you just can't play about with an exhibition like that normally. Let's just recap very quickly on the 4 themes before we look at them in greater depth. The first was that we showed our most important artworks. They're the ones that people always want to see and that regular visitors want to see again and again and again. The second theme was that we asked each of the staff members here to pick their favourite pictures from the collection and to write the label for that themselves. The third theme was that we looked at pictures from the collection that were hard to see, that were hidden or in corners or overshadowed. We brought them out into the light. And it was interesting to note that our regular visitors were very surprised by these. They'd never noticed them before. And the final theme is drawn from an exhibition idea that we've been developing here over the last 3 or 4 years. And this was just an opportunity to get that up onto the wall and see what it looked like. And certainly we knew we were going to make mistakes there, and this was our chance to get a little bit of feedback and see what we could do better. So that's a very interesting one for us to look at from the point of view of answering this exam question. I'm sitting here beside West End Village, which was painted by James Dixon in the mid-1950s on Tory Island. And this is by far our most important artwork. But before we go on to look at that picture and at the rest of the exhibition, let me just go back and give you a very brief history of the Glebe House and Gallery. It's the former home of an artist called Derek Hill. He was a portrait painter who moved to Donegal in the early 1950s because it's so beautiful here, and he wanted to really get stuck into painting landscapes. This is a beautiful place to do that. Now, he also had a house in London and possibly spent more time there than he did here, but he regarded Donegal as his home from then on and spent large parts of the year coming back on short and longer trips, going to Tory Island to paint and bringing friends to come and see Donegal. He really promoted this as a place for artists to come, and he talked about the beauty of the place, but also of his love for the people that he met in Donegal. Derek made some of his very best paintings in Donegal, and they weren't all landscapes. He did some of his very best portraits here as well. His great contribution to Irish art, though, is that he went to Tory Island because he heard it was beautiful and he wanted to paint it, and he fell in love with the place. But he inspired the islanders to paint as well, and James Dixon was the first of those painters. So we have paintings by Derek Hill and James Dixon in this exhibition, and those are the 2 artists that people ask about when they come into the gallery. They'll ask us, can we see Derek Hill's paintings and can we see James Dixon and the Tory Island artists? So when we're mounting an exhibition like this here, they have to be included. But they are pictures that have been exhibited a lot. We show them a lot here in exhibitions, and we include them in exhibitions that we mount in other institutions, and other institutions borrow them as individual pictures that fit in with their themes. So they get their day in the sun quite a lot. And I think this year we felt that we had an opportunity to do a little bit more than that. So we looked at the other 3 themes that are in the exhibition as well. Those pictures, the ones that people associate with the Glebe House and Gallery and the Derek Hill collection, they make up about 1/3 of this exhibition, but it's not always for that reason. In many cases, they've been included because they fit into one of the other of the 4 themes in the exhibition. The second portion of the exhibition is where we here at the Glebe got to pick our favourite pictures and explain why we like them on the labels. And just like everybody else, we like some of our important pictures too. And here's Kathleen and Mary to tell you why they chose the pictures that they chose.
Well, when I was first asked about my picks for what we would bring up to the gallery, there was no real issue in picking the first one, and it's the one here of Eddie Moore. I fell in love with it the first time I saw it, and it was totally a personal reason. It was because it just reminded me so much of my grandfather, who I suppose I was a bit of his pet, and I spent my childhood out in the fields with him. It's not even the likeness, it's just the stance. It just reminds me so much, and it evokes great memories for me. The other one that I picked here is this one by Edward Pignon, and I didn't know why I liked it until I saw the two of them together. Yet I think now that it might have been something from my subconscious, because when I see the two together, I see that the same tones are in both pieces, and also even the shape of this abstract by Pignon seems to have the same kind of shape as the one of Eddie Moore. Maybe that's not the reason, but I just think that since I've seen them together, that might be the reason.
When I was asked to pick pictures for this exhibition, it was very difficult. I settled for Lost Salt by Pietro Annigoni. The reason why I picked this one is it's a beautiful view anyway. It's one that I see every evening as I go home from work, from the Glebe to Creasla. But I especially like the Pietro Annigoni view of Lost Salt because it doesn't have the greens and browns that if an Irish artist was doing it, you know, he sees it in a different way and different colours. So I thought it was interesting and I really love it. The next one I picked was Muckish by Cherith McKinstra, and this is also a view that I see on my way home, and I just could imagine Cherith McKinstra out with her easel, and I'm always trying to pick the spot that she would have sat while she painted this painting. The third one I picked was Rathmullen by Basil Blackshaw. I love the colours in it. It's off Rathmullen, and Rathmullen is a place that we would have been very familiar with living in Letterkenny. It was always the beach that we went to, but I really love this one of Basil Blackshaw's, and I hope you like my choice too.
The third part of the exhibition is where we got to pull out pictures that people don't notice when they're taking a tour of the Glebe House. And I think it's my favourite part of the exhibition because we have some wonderful paintings. Most of them are quite small and people just miss them. And this was a lovely chance to get them out, shine a bit of light on them and let people spend a bit of time with them. Visitors to the Glebe House almost never ask about pictures like these, even though in themselves they're very beautiful. Robert Henry painted Paris Bridge. Henry was a very important American artist in his own right, but very influential as a teacher. And Wallace E. Ting was a Chinese artist who is better known for the work that he did in America. And it might be a good idea to pause here and take screenshots of the images and of the labels. And while these two artists were very influential on the American art scene, this artist, Maria Vieira da Silva, wasn't. She was one of the European abstract artists that didn't go to America after the Second World War. So while these three artists are very influential and very important in their own respect, they tend not to fit into the sort of themes that we have explored in exhibitions in the past, and they get overlooked. The final part of the exhibition is called The Life of Ties, and it's an exhibition idea that a colleague of mine, Jean, came up with a few years ago, and it also looks at a part of the collection that doesn't get seen very often. A fascinating thing about the Derek Hill collection is that it is a complete collection. Very often when you go to see a collection like this, you only see the collector as an art collector or a furniture collector, and if you were to open the drawers, they'd be empty. And Derek Hill gave everything in the Glebe House to the Irish people in the early 1980s. So when you open doors and when you open drawers, there are things behind them and in them. And one of the drawers in the Glebe house is full of Derek's old neckties. There's almost 300 of them, and we've never found a way of exhibiting them, which is a shame because they're really interesting in themselves. Here's a portrait of Derek Hill wearing one of his ties, and unfortunately this tie isn't in our collection. But Jean's idea was to ask writers to choose a tie and to use that as the starting point for a story, a very short story. And the challenge that we then faced is, how do you take that wonderful idea and turn it into a visual art exhibition? And we took the opportunity this summer to try a few things out. In the final video in this series, we're going to look at the exhibition critically. We're going to look at what works and what doesn't work and what could have been better. We carried out a visitor survey during the summer, and we're going to look at the results of that survey. We're also going to look at the survey itself and how it was designed. And we're going to particularly look at how the exhibition flows. Because of coronavirus, we had to implement a one-way system in the exhibition, so we knew what order people were going to see the pictures in. That's quite unusual because people can normally wander around an exhibition whatever way they want. So we decided to build in a narrative and try and spread the information throughout the exhibition rather than a lot at the start to set a visitor up for what they were about to see. Now, I'm not sure how well that worked, so we'll take a really close look at that in the next video. And here's a link to a video that'll give you a little bit more information about James Dixon and Tory Island and the other Tory Island artists, and Derek Hill and his association with them.